Today we're going to be talking and discussing how, kids vary genetically from their parents and what ultimately causes that. So it all starts in meiosis, which in the human body creates gametes. So your body, depending if you're a man or woman, it'll create sperm or egg cells. And so these will ultimately, during fertilization, they will combine and give us like the kid, the zygote it's called, which is like the base life of everything to come. And so during fertilization, we also see the child will get one chromosome from mom and one chromosome from dad. And so if this were just to happen, there wouldn't be a whole lot of genetic variation. It would just straight up be handing traits down. But the awesome thing about meiosis is it tweaks it. It makes it different. That's why we get so much genetic diversity between humans. And so this all occurs in prophase 1, it's called, where this thing called crossing over exchanges genetic information between the two chromosomes to create something, similar but completely different at the same time. And that's why we see, traits handed down from mom and dad that are like similar, but they're not exactly the same. And it ultimately makes the human species, very diverse. And it happens when these two will intertwine and they will exchange information so that maybe this one has lines on this, on its lines. It's like, you can see that these chromosomes are different. But when crossing over occurs, maybe they'll intertwine and they'll catch parts here. So we can see now those two are kind of meshing. And when it's all done, that's when we see two X's that look different. So see how this one was the dashed one at the very beginning, and now that it's done, you can see it's still dashed, but now it's got one straight side. And now we'll look at our other chromosome, which had no dashes at the beginning, but now it has that one dashed side at the bottom there. So we can see that, the majority of the information and everything stored on these chromosomes is the same, but, a little genetic tweak and a little mixing with the other parent's chromosome, it creates something different. And so in each chromosome, there is genes, which is a super long list of, codes of A's and G's and T's and C's and everything that combines into ultimately make an allele. So an allele is commonly known by being like a uppercase or lowercase letter. So in this example, we're going to be using height. We're going to have an uppercase H and a lowercase h. And so two uppercase H's is going to be tall. Uppercase, lowercase is going to be medium, and two lowercases is going to be short. And so maybe all of this gene pair is basically just a genetic code for a big H, even after all the mixing and crossing over and everything, while the other one codes for a lowercase h. So each one of these letters is called an allele. And so when you combine those, so big H plus little h, it's going to give us a genotype. This is a genotype right here, which is just the combination of two alleles. And this right here, as we can see, codes for medium height, which when actually shown physically, they're not tall, but they're not short. That's a phenotype. It's their physical description of what this genotype codes for. And ultimately, the phenotype and the genotype, they kind of combine to make your ultimate trait. This process will occur again and again and again to dictate every single trait that you get from your parents, every single genetic trait and diversity that you have from your parents and other human beings comes from this process. And that's what makes every single person, two siblings could have the same parents, but they'd have, different genes. Similar, but, different at the same time. And that's why we see genetic diversity is so prevalent in the human race. And this process occurs so many times to just give you every single trait that you need.